WNST, Towson, Wembley, and London, and Heathrow on Monday. My jet lag is gone. I've dusted off and trying to sort of recalibrate here and chase back some people that I wanted to have on the program last week or the week before that. This guy had dinner with us about a week and a half ago now when the Super Bowl 35 champs came to town. I do like to call him Super Bowl 35 champ because I know he likes that title and moniker, and he certainly earned it. He has been my longtime friend for 2 decades now. Some call him the Feezer. I call him Mike Flynn. He is Flynn985 out on Twitter, and the main event back on here talking all sorts of things. First off, that was a lot of fun, right? Super Bowl 35 reunion. I know it doesn't wash away the 44-7 loss in Wembley and all that stuff, but we were having a pretty good time there before we got to London, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, I think the team had, Obafemi, Ivan Dejo, Kyle Richardson kind of put this thing together, but before that it was a team on the 10th year anniversary, so that's pretty much the last time I saw most of those guys. And now that I live up here, even guys that I was close with, I don't see often. So that was good. They had a good turnout, a good event Saturday night. Got a chance to go see the game. I got to see a game from a luxury suite. Nestor, not like you with the masses. I was up with the beautiful people.
They gave you free beer, in other words. Okay, that's good.
Free beer and chicken fingers, yes.
Nice.
But yeah, it was obviously a big win. But yeah, the tailgate before, catch up with a lot of people I haven't seen in a while. So it was a good event. You were there for at least the Saturday portion of that, and you saw a lot of guys that you did stuff with. And
it was fun, man.
It was fun. Ozzy showed up there. Brian Billick was there. But yeah, it was good. I came in Saturday, left after the game on Sunday, but it was a good 24, 36 hours there.
Incredible warmth, amongst all of you guys, for me, for each other. We wound up burning the candle a little bit late with, Dwayne Starks, Brad Jackson, Billy Davis, yourself, Goose, Kyle. I know Anthony Mitchell was also a big part of that, another guy we like a lot that we haven't seen. Can I just, this is a strange question to ask you, but 16 years into this and a decade since you played the game, and we've been friends forever. I've never asked you this privately or on. How does it make you feel when you come back and you walk down on the field being that guy now on Old Timers Day for a championship in the parade? We rode together in the parade 16 years ago. You still lost the damn videotape, and I'm going to point that out to everybody. But how does it make you feel? I mean, not just coming back and maybe older and all that stuff, but certainly there's got to be some level of incredible pride about all that when you walk out on the field at 1 o'clock on Sunday.
Oh yeah, I mean. Nostalgic, obviously. Look back on the glory days, but I noticed when we walked out there. I mean, you were there, and we walked out of the tunnel. You could hear the decibels go up in the stadium, and that kind of was pretty touching. Actually, I didn't really have any expectations. I certainly wasn't expecting that. The emotion. Granted, I know it's opening day, but you felt the emotion kind of. Get jacked up there when we walked out there, and with OJ and all the guys, and man, that was special. I was surprised. I didn't think I would have that kind of emotion going out there. Started getting the butterflies, and that was appreciated, not just by me, but a lot of the guys. I mean, obviously, we're done. We had our time in the spotlight, but to go out there and be appreciated like that. And even when we left, we're out there for a couple series, and we went back up to where we were sitting, and as we were walking out, all the different sections stood up and gave us a standing O, and man, that was really nice. I got to admit, that was a feeling I haven't felt in a while, and I'm not the only guy that talked about it during the game about how great that was. I'm
glad to ask you that question because I did want to hear that. Flynn985, 11 years around here in Baltimore, now doing it up at 98.5 The Hub and at CSNNE up in Boston. And his beautiful son is the lead in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so he's moving back and forth between Boston and New York. And I know you still follow the Ravens. You're still all into it. I'm sure you were up early in the morning. We're over there in London, and I know Spence and Kyle and some of you guys had some experience playing over there to cut your teeth and learn your craft over in Europe. But to see the Ravens go over there and play like that, dude, just, an unbelievably brutal game. I mean, really the worst game in the history of the organization. And we travel well. We had 20,000 people spending $5,000 and up to go over there and hang out and watch a football game that really kind of never happened over the weekend. Very, very perplexing. And I think a tough time for John and for the organization coming back for this Pittsburgh week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with that game because I did, fortunately for me, like my sons have become Ravens fans now, and they're really getting into football. So it was kind of a big deal to sit and watch the game. Yeah, I don't know where you start with that. I watched the whole game, and there not much. I don't think there's one good thing really to say that. Maybe Ben Watson getting a late touchdown because my son had him in fantasy football, but other than that was a disaster over there. And I haven't heard any post-game comments from John or anybody in the organization or players. But, yeah, that wasn't a good performance. That's disappointing. Now, listen, Jacksonville has a decent defense, but they weren't really good on offense, and they were dealing with injuries. And they have a decent defense, not like what they showed there. That's got to be disappointing. You have a chance to go 3-0. And, listen, you're going to lose some games. That's not an easy trip. Going to London, that's a game in itself. There's a lot of exterior factors you need to deal with. I get that, but you certainly have to play better than that. And regardless of people flying out there and stuff like that, I mean, but geez, that's got to be very disappointing for Ozzie and John and the organization because that wasn't much of a performance. And just in my history with the organization, I think of that. Remember that Pittsburgh game, I believe.
Oh, we talked about it. Yeah, absolutely. Went up to Pittsburgh and just got waxed. Yeah.
That game, and then there was the game, I believe
Jacksonville,
it was 97 in Pittsburgh, Three Rivers. Vinny got whacked that game, and then maybe this one. You're right. So, I mean, you're not far off. At least the Pittsburgh teams were good teams, right? And they're a franchise that are perennial winners. As opposed to Jacksonville, but you're probably right. It's got to be one of the worst defeats in the franchise's history.
Dude, I looked up; it's 44-0, and I'm sitting in the middle of London, and I'm like, "What the hell happened?" And I'm sure the Ravens
seemed like a sense of urgency from John. Listen, sometimes you go out there and get beat. I mean, I will say this: when we got our butts handed to in Pittsburgh, there certainly was a sense of urgency on the sidelines. We just sucked. We just absolutely sucked. It didn't look like there was much with that team, and I'm sure coming back here and dissecting that film with the team, it's not going to be a fun practice time for them until they get to Pittsburgh because that wasn't a good performance, and I think they would all admit that, and they have a long way to go.
Mike Flynn is our guest, Super Bowl 35 champion. Look, man, you played the center and the guard position and did it for a long time and did it well and moved back and forth at various points. The Marshall Yanda thing and the loss of him, maybe I'm wrong, but I tweeted out when it was 20-0 or 23-0, I don't even remember, but I tweeted out, this is what happens when you take a $10 million guard out and you take a $12 million defensive tackle out and you wonder why they pay Marshall Yanda that much money and why they pay Brandon Williams that much money. It's because Marshall Yanda can do things at this point in his career that you couldn't do, right? I mean, he's a $12 million guy. And when you try to sub in the 1997 version of Mike Flynn, who's just trying to find his way, that's a really, really tough thing against Malik Jackson, right?
Well, I mean, certainly in the short term, right? I mean, when you lose a player and it's a turnaround where you have to go out and play the next week, that there is going to be a huge drop off. Now, eventually, they'll scheme to help a certain individual, and that player will get better. But over the first couple of weeks, there's always a huge adjustment. There's no doubt about it. So the playing part of it hurts you. But obviously, from a leadership standpoint, something tells me when it's 30-0 in that game, Marshall Yanda is going to take somebody out. Who knows who's going to be? Your team, my team, but somebody's going to get taken out in that game, and people are going to listen. And certainly the outcome wouldn't change, but the fight at the end in the second half certainly would have. So you lose that element too, and that's hard to, one of those intangible type of things. It's hard to put a stat on that. It's hard to have some analytic stat for that, but that's what you lose too. And going over to London and a different environment, keeping guys on task in the meeting room. Veteran guys are important with that kind of stuff. So, listen, at this point now, injuries in the NFL, it's a way of life. Everybody's used to it. Really good teams lose players. You have to adjust. You have to get better, and I'm sure they will. But, yeah, in the short term, whenever you lose an all-pro type of player, that's going to hurt you.
All right, man, we got to get to the real topic here, which is the taking of the knee. You're up in Boston. I know, you have a proud American family. I've done a lot of national anthems with your parents. Usually we set our beers down and took our hats off and did all that stuff before many, many games back when you played in the upper deck. I've seen you put some stuff out about Villanueva this week. I don't know, Flinter, if you're a Pittsburgh Steeler and everybody gets together and says we're going to stay in, I don't know that you would have had a problem or wouldn't have had a problem, but I tell you what, from a management perspective, and I've brought this up all week and I'll continue to do so, whether you have a black coach, a white coach, a black quarterback, a white quarterback, right, left, east, west, whatever it is, I know in these locker rooms there are people with different opinions. And this is a time where this can be incredibly combustible, and it'll wreck a couple of locker rooms in this league before it's all over with, I think.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And I'll be honest with you, we can talk about this subject for a long time. There's a lot of different angles to it, and there's so much more going on in this world. And I honestly believe it's 20% of the people that really talk and care about this. Problem is when you get to the left or the right on both sides, right? They're usually the loudest and some of the dumbest people too that lead the conversations. That's the problem we have. First off, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't kneel. I don't like it. I think athletes have more than enough platforms to do that, to speak. They always have a microphone in their face on a topic like this. There will be more than enough people to hear what they have to say and put it in print and put it on TV. So I think they have a lot of platforms. And
but hang on, let me just stop. Say this: that they took the knee. 250 guys took the league, and they're on their message. They're on their message of fairness and equality and justice. But that's not what the other side's hearing. The other side's hearing you're desecrating the flag, and then they can't get an audience for what they're trying to get an audience for anyway. So,
well, see, this is where we dissuade because it's easy to. Because what you don't understand is there are people that have dedicated their life to this country, right?
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
In the service, civil service, right? There are people that have come from nothing and have made themselves to very successful. Okay, so when they look at that, right, you got to expect when you take a knee during that they're very passionate about it, that they lost a family member overseas, that they were involved in the military. Civil service, right? Anything like that.
But I don't know that it needs to be about the military. I don't think the knee is about the military. They're not.
Well, then I would look at this. Then to me, let me finish here. You look at the flag, though. What does the flag mean, right? The anthem and the flag are meant to honor America, right? Yeah, of course.
Liberty and justice for all. Can I throw that out? That's when I see the flag. Sure, I really do think liberty and justice for all.
Right? If you're going to hammer the flag and what it stands for, okay, and what you think it does, the injustices, well, what about all the good things that it's done? All the millions and millions of people that have been freed, right?
Sure.
That's about the flag. That's about the military. You could separate those two, and you can protest something else. You could separate that too. So you can look at it both different ways. The problem you have is there is no empathy for either side. There is no respect. Hey, I want to kneel. I think there's injustice in the world. I could see that. Honestly, I could see that. But the other people say, well, you know what? This is how I view it. I'm very passionate about this. And right away, it's like, you don't understand. You haven't lived my life. You don't know what it's like. Well, wait a minute, though. See, so we have no empathy on either side. There's no respect for each other.
I don't think the knee is patently disrespectful, though. You know, you kneel before God. You kneel before in humility. You kneel when you get down on one knee to ask your wife.
You don't find it disrespectful.
I don't.
But there are people that do. And here's what I will say with that.
And I'm okay with that. But don't cut my head off because I don't share your opinion or I won't shut up about that opinion.
Well, wait a minute. But like once again, I will say this poor kid from Pittsburgh, right, that gets stuck out, and now if you look at the story, he couldn't get back. He was in the military. He served, and he said with his team, like, hey, listen, I won't go out there. I'm fine with that. And he's with his teammates, okay? He gets stuck out there because he wanted to be in front. I'm willing to bet that guy took a lot of heat for what happened.
Oh, yeah.
And he had to apologize. He had to go up there and said he threw it. See, to me, I blame Tomlin. That's my blame on that. You should go out there and out of the end. If you want to stand, stand. If you want to kneel, that's fine. But you should have been out there, and you put that kid in a tight spot. That's my problem. That's the problem with that. And like I said, here's what I'll say. This is what I'll say about it. I wouldn't do it. I don't like that they have a lot of platforms. But you know what, though? If my teammate isn't a fraud and he has a belief and he nails, I respect him. I would respect him because I don't mind his free speech and freedom of speech and going out there and saying what you have to say, right? If it's responsible, I have no problem with it. I'm not saying I had a problem with it, but I'm just saying we don't see either side here. People expect, that have a background of civil service, military, love their country, have come from a different country, dirt poor, and rose their way up, and they are offended by that. The people who kneel, they can't look at that either. And that's the problem. That's the biggest problem.
Well, I think when the people that kneel say, listen to what I have to say, and they say, we're not going to listen to you, you're a traitor. You hate our country for getting on a knee. I don't even want to hear anymore.
But honestly, though,
that's a tough...
really, what are we kneeling for in the NFL? Because of Trump. The guys that the Martellus.
Well, this really was started by him. I mean, he got the reaction he wanted with 15 tweets over the weekend, which was to make the story about him and to divide people. I mean, and more than that, having been thrown out of the league or never invited into the league in the USFL, part of this, that's a huge, huge part of this.
Absolutely. And not to mention, listen, Trump is an idiot, but he's not. I mean, there is so much stuff going on that he could tweet about the NFL and cause this firestorm, and nobody can really see what's going on either.
I think he's trying to damage the league and saw this as an easy way to divide people, and it worked. And I think the one thing that the league has tried to do, and we're seeing more of this now with Bob Kraft speaking out, and and Jerry Jones with the knee and all of that, is that the league and
But isn't it hollow though? Nestor,
it is.
It's a little hollow.
It's hollow when Ray Lewis is down on a knee in London after telling Colin Kaepernick to keep his mouth shut, and Colin Kaepernick's still unemployed.
It's all of a sudden you offend people in the NFL. You tell them what they're not going to do. And actually, Shannon Sharp I heard him talking about it. I don't disagree with a lot of the stuff he says at times, but what he said was phenomenal and talked about he was disappointed how, it took calling these guys sons of bitches and telling the owners what they can or cannot do to go out there and kind of be unified. I mean, is it Trump, or are you actually protesting something? So I think it's gotten, when Kaepernick did it and some of these players did it, I think they were protesting something. Like I said, I wouldn't do it. I think they have a lot of different platforms I don't necessarily agree with, but I would respect it. I really would, because dissent, honest dissent, right? Freedom of speech. If it's done respectfully and it's done with the right way, that's what this country's all about. It really is.
He is my friend. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, buddy.
No, finish up. I want you to say what you have to say.
That's what I said. I just think it's gotten bigger than that now. Nobody can. I see the biggest problem I have is we are so divided in terms of you're either really far in one direction and you're really far in another direction. I am not the most political guy in the world, but I feel like I've been very disenchanted because I'm probably one of the worst people in the world you could be. I'm kind of a moderate, which in today's world is crazy. So I see this, and that's one of the biggest things I get from this.
Flynn, I'll just say this last thing on this, and we'll get back to football and what's going on the field. But when the President of the United States calls men of color SOBs and the guy's already not got a job, in the case of Kaepernick, I mean, whatever the side is, he's not employed. So if you're on that side of kneeling should make you be fireable, he's fired. He doesn't have a job right now. So knowing that and knowing that they were attacked, that this was an honest attack on all of the men of color in the league, that they saw it that way, took it that way, I can't be shocked. When I saw this stuff going down Saturday night in London, I said there's going to be a lot of guys taking a knee. And you know why? These are all alpha male, achiever, top of class, very testosterone-laden, very respect, integrity. You're not going to call me out. And it's a league full of tough guys, Flynn. I don't need to tell you that. You were one of them. You did it for a long time. I think when that challenge is laid before men who have this background, it was going to be an FU to Trump. It just was. And and Trump knew that, which is why he did it. And he wants to harm the league, where we have people all around the league now burning jerseys and saying they're not going to come to the games. That makes Trump happy. That's what he looked to do, and he did it. And we're talking about him, and we're talking about football this week, in a week where people are saying, I don't want to go to the game. I'm going to turn the games off. That's a big win for Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, I could see people not attending the games because I think that eventually will be a downward trend anyway. But I'd be absolutely stunned and shocked if people didn't turn into the games, no matter what he says. And in terms of Trump, listen, if you're president, you can have opinions about things, but you're the president and you're a part of government. Since when do you try to trample on free speech, right? How would you ever advocate somebody getting fired?
That's the most unpatriotic thing I've ever heard of, trampling on free speech.
That's the biggest thing. If Trump came out there and said, listen, I don't think you should kneel for the anthem. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's about the military, on and on. Listen, I'm fine with it, but when you start saying people should be fired, that's utterly ridiculous. And it's illegal. I mean, it's the First Amendment. That's why everything is put in place, right? So government can't tell you what to do, right? You could say what you want. There could be dissent, right? So when he did that, huge line, even more than just his being against the people kneeling. It's ridiculous. How could you say that as a president?
He is Mike Flynn. He is Flynn 985, and he's up in New England doing sports radio up there, as well as a forever Super Bowl 35 champion around here. You worried about the Ravens right now? I mean, the injuries and the pileup. I mean, you've been a part of some of these teams where it just gets to be too much, and you don't have enough bodies, enough capable bodies to throw out there to go beat a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I would be. I went down to the game on Cleveland. There were some good things to see. Defensively, they were very good. Offensively, they struggled a lot of times, and I still think Flacco's struggling. I don't know what kind of guy you're going to get the rest of the year, and now you deal with injuries. You lose a Marshall Yanda. They could be in trouble, but I don't know how good the division is. Pittsburgh just lost. Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Well, they're done, right? It's a two-team race. I mean, Cleveland and Cincinnati are not winning the division.
Well, I just don't know how. I mean, it just depends how good Pittsburgh is on the top end. I've watched a little of them play. They haven't been overwhelming. I thought they were going to be really good. But yeah, I would think going in it was going to be those guys anyway. But I think defensively they could be good, but offensively, I think Joe needs to play better. And
there's no doubt about that.
Big if. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you could say that about a lot of different teams in this league. But I would think, right, it's a little bit of an early season tipping point. You can't play a team, whether it's in London, here, Albuquerque, and get your ass handed to you like that, not have some sort of reaction. And where do you go from there? And you would assume you come out firing and you play well and you get a big win. It really could turn a season, but man, you have a tough loss or you don't come out there perform and you lay another egg, you could see that spiraling really quick.
Belichick going to give up 400 points up there in New England? They must be crazy up there because they're not going to go 16-0.
No, I mean, they really, Houston had them on the ropes, probably should have won that football game. Bill O'Brien, who I think is a good coach, just coaching decision, especially the last couple of minutes, challenging a call he shouldn't have and really hurt him. But the defense is struggling. That's for sure. I mean, Houston, up until this point, I think they scored 13 points in 2 weeks, couldn't move the ball. Now, with that said, Deshaun Watson was great. He did a lot of things in the pocket on the run that 99% of the league can and won't do. So that certainly helped him. But I still think the defense struggles on the back end, and questionable what kind of consistent pass rush that they have. So, if your defense isn't great, and, to me, offense, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in a good offense, and all it takes is that one day where a little wet out, the ball's not quite getting out quick enough, giving up some pressure, a couple big drops, and boom, you got to rely on your defense. I don't think the Patriots have the defense they've had the last few years.
He is Mike Flynn. He's one of our all-time favorites. Take care of yourself. How's your boy doing? How long's the run with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Still in it?
To the end of March, and then that's it. Then hopefully he's coming home. Unless he gets a new gig, but I kind of want him to come home.
I bet you do. I bet you do. So, but you've enjoyed this. It's been a great time in your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, I love it. But, at some point, I got 3 boys here. We get stretched thin, and I think he wants to come home a little bit too, so.
All right, well, we'll get him to March and get him through Christmas in New York, and we'll get up there to see the show. Flinner, always appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on with
buddy.
us.
Take care.
Great insights. Mike Flynn, 985 is the way to find him. Flynn, 985, out on Twitter, and at 98.5, the hub up in Boston. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you you by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com, where it is still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. I am available anytime, anywhere, nasty at WNST.net. That is my hotline, the only email address I have. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.